He is the modern-day Don Nehlen.
But Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
He's bought into the program.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
Let them know. Leave no doubt tonight. Leave no doubt tonight. No doubt. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue.
I was watching ESPN today and they showed a little thing about our game tonight in the poll. And the whole U.S. was covered in red. And the only state, the greatest state in the nation, was covered in blue, and that was West Virginia. And that's why we won this game.
Trust the climb.
And now, the show brought to you by Mountaineer fans, for Mountaineer fans, the Country Roads Webcast.
Mountaineer Nation, let's ride.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another edition of the Country Roads Webcast. This is Season 5, Episode 131 of the CRW Pod, our Backyard Brawl review and reaction show. As always, I'm your host, Jordan Cruz, and I've got my co-host here with me. We've got Bradley.
What's up, everybody?
And Steven.
What's going on, everybody?
All right, gentlemen. So, having seen the highlights now and having had more than a couple days now to digest everything, let's verbally regurgitate a little bit of what we digested with a little bit of our opening thoughts following West Virginia's 38-31 season and opening loss. Steven, why don't you go ahead with your opening thoughts, and Bradley, once he's done, we'll go ahead and hear yours. You can follow him up.
Well, first of all, I think that, I think it's been well stated and that it was a great representation of the rivalry, a great, showcase for our fan base. So I'm really happy to be a part of what was announced later, I think yesterday, that it was the largest crowd in Pittsburgh sports history. So that was, when you think about what that in its entirety, that's very impressive. I think after you get over the sting of the loss and losing to who it was, I think I'm very truly optimistic about what this team can do. I think that I mentioned it several times to you during the game that this is the first time that I can remember in several years that West Virginia played a complete game on all three phases. We're usually sitting here thinking, man, if we would have had a better defense in that game, we would have won, or vice versa on the offensive side of the ball. And I truly, honestly can sit here and tell you that I feel confident in all three phases of the game. I just think that it was a truly great game. There's been truly several close games down the stretch of even the last 2 decades that were really good ball games and were really fun to watch. But this game was a multitude of just really great plays and really great fundamental football being played on both sides. And I'm not, going to sit here and say that Pitt played horrible, or whatever. Pitt had a great showing and had a great football team. And unfortunately, we came out on the wrong end of it. But I'm truly optimistic and even more firmly planted in my 9-3 prediction after watching it.
Yeah, for sure. I think going into it, I agree with Steven that going from last year to this year, you can definitely tell we're a much better team. And that's in all phases of the ball, like Steven said. We looked good on offense. We had some explosiveness and pop plays. Bryce Ford Wheaton looked better than we've ever seen him before. Offensive line, still a big question mark for us. I had a few negatives that I think really stood out to me. I know it's been a big talking point and people have their differing opinions on it, but I really disagree with the call to not go for it on 4th and 1. I'm sure we'll dive into it a little bit more later, but yeah, for right now, I just disagree. I think that we should have gone for it on 4th and 1. Other than that, I think we've looked good, and I think that especially going into this game, it was an amazing game. Let me say that as well, because it was just a wonderful game to watch. It was so much fun. a lot of back and forth. I mean, they've even said that this is one of the highest viewed Thursday games in 5 years. I mean, it was everything that it was promised to be, and it was amazing. It sucks that we came out on the negative end of it. The only thing that would have made that game better is a Mountaineer win. And so, I think that the team that made the least amount of mistakes won. And, I'm really hoping that the Mountaineers bounce back. And I think that we look even better than I expected. So.
All right. Well said from both of you, I think. And a lot of points to touch on, I believe, here as we go through with our reactions to the game and just try and, put everything on the table and, get through our feelings and deal with the loss, if you will, I guess. But there's definitely many talking points that have come out after the game of things that should or shouldn't have happened. And the biggest of which, Bradley, I'm glad you brought it up, is the fourth down, because I did want to get into it kind of at the top right away, because, that's all, it seems like that's all anyone is really talking about. And I know me and you had a nice little point counterpoint on Twitter, and of course we can get into some of that here in a second. But Steven, I haven't really heard your opinion as far as that fourth down too much. A lot of people are, saying they'll never trust Neil Brown again. The people are being really extreme with their reaction because he didn't go for that fourth down, I feel like, in my opinion. And I'm not, well, I'll tell you whether I would agree or disagree with it. Personally, I would have gone for it, of course, but like when I hear his reasoning, I understand and everything, but I haven't heard your opinion on it, Steven. What is your take on the fourth down, the call itself, and then the subsequent reaction to said call, or the decision not to go for it anyway, since the game?
Well, first of all, I think that Travis Hunter on Sportsline earlier tonight put it best, and I think that he said that if you've watched Mountaineer football over the years, and we as Mountaineer fans in this fan base know what I mean and know what he means by saying this. If you've watched Mountaineer football in even the last 2 decades, not including in its entirety, what happens. Everybody in that stadium, where in West Virginia, knew what was going to happen if we punted that football, and it did happen. And so for that reason, I absolutely agree with Brad, and I think that we should have 1,000% went for it, especially when you have C.J. Donaldson pounding the rock up the middle all night the way that he was doing. With that said, the subsequent backlash from the fan base towards Neil Brown, I think if we went for it and say that he goes for it and even gets that fourth down conversion, there's something else that the fan base is going to pick out, because you don't know that even if we go for that we even still win the game. And I'm not trying to like make up what if scenarios, but I'm just saying, like, I think that we as a fan base and people as a whole in any fan base, it's easier to pick out one play or pick out one thing in a football game when you lose something so heartbreaking, such as a game like this and such emotional power as this game holds. And I think that no matter what, people are going to talk. So even if he would have went for it, they would have found something to say against Neil Brown. I think that by this point, we can only hope that Neil Brown understands that no matter what, there's going to be backlash from some people in the fan base. But
without a doubt.
Yeah, unless you're winning, there's always going to be questions.
Exactly. And so I think until you get to that point to where, exactly right. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say next. Until you get to the point to where you're winning on a consistent basis, people are going to say what they're going to say, and as unfortunate as that is, that's the world that we live in. Right. My thoughts are on the subsequent backlash. I guess my thoughts are it is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're not gonna stop it or whatever. It's gonna come. Usually, there's gonna be something that people point out on. But here's my thing on it. And I haven't really. I know, like I said, Brad, me and you talked about it a little bit, but I started thinking about it either. I don't know if it was earlier today or yesterday. I can't remember. But here's one of the things that really hit me when I started thinking about it a little bit deeper. Right. To me, it's about execution. Right. Like if he goes out, if he says go for it, it's about executing that play, getting it. You would have to do that. And when he chose to punt, they needed to execute that, and they did. They executed that. They pinned him inside the 10-yard line. made them go 90 yards, 6 minutes, and you're trusting your defense to execute in turn, right? And unfortunately, they didn't. And to me, what that goes back to is one thing during the offseason that Neil Brown was talking about that he thought the defense could improve on that they didn't do last season is a lot of games they had late situations where the game was tied and West Virginia needed a stop to get the ball back or to prevent the team from kicking a game-winning field goal, and they couldn't finish. Oklahoma comes to mind. Couldn't stop them. Oklahoma kicks game-winning field goal. Texas Tech, same scenario. And then I'm sure there's plenty of others that I can't think of off the top of my head, but West Virginia could have got a stop and got the ball back and had a chance to win. And in this game, it was no different. They were counting on their defense to finish, and that Neil Brown was thinking, I've preached all season that, our defense needs to finish when they're put in these situations, and he was trusting in them to do so, just like he was trusting in the special teams to execute and pin the punt inside the 10, and they did. But the defense just didn't hold up their end of the deal, right? It's complimentary football, and that was very complimentary towards the defense, but they just didn't execute, and that's the bad thing that I hate is that it's something that they knew was a focus in an area they needed to improve, right? And they didn't. The defense still couldn't finish when West Virginia really needed him to, much like last season. And to me, that's what hurts me more than the decision itself, I think.
Yeah,
great point.
Definitely. And I think that's where, because my viewing of this, and I'll tell you my initial reaction, we get out there 4th and 1. I fully expected Neil Brown to go for it. And the second he decided to take a delay game penalty and punt it, I sat down and I said, "No, Brown, you can't do this." And I think that my feeling comes from that it wasn't a bad call, but it was absolutely the wrong call. And that's when you got people pulling up. You got an 87% metrics, 82% if you punt it, 87% chance if you go for it. Not that big of a margin of difference. But to me, it's just that's where it proves it. It wasn't a bad call, but it was absolutely the wrong call. Because you've got C.J. Donaldson that has been absolutely pounding the rock all night and is going to get – the guy was averaging 12 yards a carry. I mean, he's going to get a yard. I don't care what anybody says. There's nothing in this world that was going to stop that man from getting a yard. And, that's – and like Jordan said, he was relying on the defense to come up and make a play, pin them deep. But even then, if you don't execute on the punt, then they're still getting the ball at the 20-yard line. If you really trust in your defense – go for it on 4th and 1. I mean, yeah, you're giving them a short field, but you still believe in your defense to be able to stop them no matter what, no matter where they're at on the field. So, why not take that chance on 4th and 1? And when I've talked about it, is taking the game into your own hands. Like instead of going for the dagger to the throat, Neil Brown instead decided to let Pitt prove that they couldn't do it. You know what I mean? And instead of proving that we can, he let Pitt try to prove that, he tried to prove that Pitt couldn't. And Pitt did. They came out and they did it. And, when he made that 4th and 1 call, it's just one of those things you can't do it. And I feel like that's why we've lost some of these 50-50 games is because we take a back seat and rely on a defensive play when really, especially, and I get it, our offense has been atrocious the last few years. But when you're looking as good as we did on Thursday night, you got to give him a chance, man. And I think that that's where I see that, we brought in Graham Harrell to kind of fix these issues, a man that's willing to take those shots and being able to take that load on his shoulders. And I think that's where I still see Neil Brown's hands in the offense. And I think that he was just too passive. I want to see him. He does not shown the ability to have that killer instinct. The man knows football to a great extent, but he has not shown the ability to have that killer instinct to go out there and will his team to finish. And I think that it was his call to punt it. And I think that Graham Harrell would have gone for it 100 times out of 100. Knowing that his running back was absolutely bullying Pitt all night. And so seeing Brown really step in. He needs to let Graham Harrell just cut them loose. Absolutely go out there and ball like I think they can. So, yeah, I just think that 4th and 1 punt, yeah, you can look at all the other what-ifs in the game, but that's one of the ones where it comes down to our coach. A 4-year head coach should know that, in that situation, 4th and 1 is where you have to do it. In that situation with those, that scenario, you have to go for it on 4th and 1.
Yeah, but you can't sit here and harp on that for like the whole – you can't let that define you for the rest of the season. And – if you harp on it that much, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to, eventually feel infiltrate into the some of the rest of the games. It was a bad decision, sure, but like Cruz, I would have went for it on 4th and 1, and I still stand by that decision. But like Cruz said, his reasonings were good reasoning. So I don't want to be. There's so many people that give no one a chance. They're just like, as soon as something happens, fire him. You know what I mean? And
yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely not calling for the firing of Neil Brown. I thought what he did.
I know that's not
our team looked amazing. Special teams looked absolutely phenomenal, and I give all credit to Neil Brown for that because that man's had his hands in it, and it's looked great. But I stand by the fact that I think that he needs to take his hands completely off the offensive play calling and let Graham Harrell handle it.
I wouldn't be so opposed to that. I will agree with that.
All right. Well, here's something I was thinking about too when you think about it, right? Because how many times have we seen in big games, especially like where West Virginia's playing an opponent that they're, the opponent's favored to beat West Virginia, right? Look back since Neil Brown's been here in those type of games, he always says he goes for it on 4th down more in those games, right? And so how many times have we seen him, it's 4th, 5, 4th, or 6, and he goes for it and everything, right? So to me, I think maybe he didn't go for it because it's the backyard brawl, because it's atypical for Neil Brown to do that, I think. So to me, maybe because it was the backyard brawl and he knew it was important, he overthunk it and was like, this game's important. He said, I better play it safe here. That's what I kind of think it went into his decision. He may never admit that, but to me, I think because it was the backyard brawl, he tried to play it safe, when in reality, he should have just play it the way he normally does any other game and just go. Because, I mean, it was less than a yard when I rewatched it on.
I mean, it was literally
from in the stadium. It looked decent. Yeah, from in the stadium, it looked like almost a full yard. But when I watched it on the thing, I was like, dude, just quarterback Sneak Daniels. Like, he just scored a touchdown from further out.
You got a 6'2", 230-pound running back with 120 yards, like 12 and a half.
To me,
it's just like 12 and a half after his contact. He's not stopping.
It's more like, I fully agree the Reese Smith wasn't a catch. That was not a catch. It was a very, very close. No, I think it's as close to being. I think it's as close to being a catch without being a catch. I do think that because it rolled slightly there at the end. However, I think more so that what angers me more so than the Neil Brown decision was if that Reese Smith non-catch isn't a catch, then how is the one by the pit tight end a catch earlier in the football game?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And the thing
I know that's also a hot topic.
It is, they're both ruled a catch on the field. So if one was ruled a catch on the field and you couldn't overturn it, then how can you overturn the other one that was also ruled a catch on the field?
Exactly. So to me, it falls more on like what do we do? I'm not blaming anything on the officiating. That is not what I'm doing. But I'm saying that we need clearer definitions in some of these rules. You know what I mean?
At least consistency in the decisions.
And so, you're right. At least consistency in the same game. You know what I mean? Like you call something one way and then you call something the other. I mean, and it's even worse when both of those end up on opposite ends of, for whatever fan base you're rooting for.
Yeah, and targeting. I mean, you had a very important targeting penalty. Yeah. That second drive that they had pulled off of a Pitt player, earlier in that game. And so, really frustrating to see that happen.
Yeah, that was probably one of the worst. I've seen some bad officiated games over the years, and that was probably one of the worst ones.
It was still Big 12 refs, apparently. So.
It was Big 12 refs, and I don't think that. I don't know. I really don't know. I've never seen a game so many times where they've went to a replay booth and then picked up a flag.
Yeah, I don't think one time it helped, and I don't think one time it helped us out.
No. Other than no, you're right.
They took 5 minutes to make the call. They never once did they throw a flag, come out and make a call. They threw a flag, grouped together for 10 minutes and asked where they was eating dinner and all that. I guess I don't know what all they was doing in there, and then went and made the call.
Yeah. And I think that's why, and I brought this up when Jordan and I were talking on Twitter. I think the reason why I hyper-focus on the punt and not necessarily the refereeing calls is because, that's something we can't control whatsoever. I can't control Bryce Ford Wheaton, having the biggest fluke of his life and let one slip through his hands. Like you can't control that. Reese Smith, that catch, I can't do anything about that. And I think that's why I look at the punt and I'm like, Neil Brown, that's something you could have changed. Like that's something that we could have changed. And I think that's where it comes out as like harping on it. But that's just like the one big flaw that I saw in that whole entire game, which is great. I'm glad I don't have like, other than our offensive line jumping off sides way too many times. That's something that should have been cleaned up. That still frustrated the crap out of me. But, they came in there as our biggest question mark, and it's going to happen. First game jitters. But I think that's why I hyper focus on the punt, is because that's the one thing that I feel like we could have changed. And, can't do much about bad reffing, but
everything else. I mean, there's a lot of hypotheticals, but a lot of them you can't really change. But, Neil Brown could have took charge and changed that one. But what is it, Stephen? What you got positive?
On the positive side of things, I said in our prediction round table this year that I think that we split the series this year with winning one game against our rival and losing one game. I thought that would be a Pitt win and a loss to Virginia Tech, but judging how things went for old Virginia Tech Friday
poor
night,
Grant Wells, poor West Virginia boy.
Buddy, I tell you, it's a rough way to go over in Blacksburg right now.
If he keeps that up, West Virginia won't see Grant Wells. It'll be a different quarterback.
Yeah. I don't think it was just on Grant Wells either. I mean, there was he didn't have much help.
Well, they're about in the same spot we were 2019 in Neil Brown's first year. They were decimated when Puente left, and Puente didn't do a great job recruiting either. So it's going to be a couple years for them until they get back.
Hey, but you know what? We'll get to keep that Black Diamond Trophy up in Morgantown for a few years, like they kept it down in Blacksburg. So it'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'll come out with another positive too. One of the big positives I think kind of went unsung is how our team reacted after the game. Hearing JT Daniels talk, and that man didn't talk like he just lost the backyard brawl. That man talked like he had confidence. He was like, we came out there and we played really hard, and Bryce Ford Wheaton, 999 times out of 1,000 is going to catch that pass and turn it up for yards. He's not going to have that happen again. It's just a fluke, man. It's just what happens. And he said he was confident in himself. He's confident in this team. They've got hunger. They've got a fire to win. What we can't fix is a team that gives up. We're not a team that's given up. And so hearing them and hearing Neil Brown getting a little bit pissed off, like I said, he's needed to do that some. I think it shows that he knows that his career's on the line this year, that it really could be, it is a bit of a show me year, even though, some of us believe that even if this year doesn't go great, he's still got another year in him. But it's still, seeing Neil Brown fired up was a good thing to see. I need to see Neil Brown's got a very nice guy personality, front face, but it's good to see him get a little pissed off.
Well, that's what I was getting at. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that if anything, every single person's reaction from the WVU staff or player coming out of that locker room after the game, they truly believe. I mean, no one in the fan base is talking. People that were predicting a win, very seldomly, it was people just saying WVU was going to win because they were a fan of them. Nobody really truly believed West Virginia was going to be that much better if you listen to a mass majority of the people. You know what I mean? Like, we listen to shows, we watch all these shows. A lot of people and we don't really know what we're going to have this year. We don't really know how good we are. West Virginia truly believed they were going to win that football game the other night.
Mm-hmm.
And they were truly confident in that fact up until the very end too. And you're absolutely right. They should have won that football game. And man, I would be willing to bet that we're going to be in it in every single football game this year. This is a talented football game. And I told my grandfather just earlier on the phone, I think this is going to be a truly fun season to watch in West Virginia football because it is talented team.
There's no team in the Big 12 that watched that game Thursday night that feels better playing against West Virginia this year now. Not one.
Yep. People were sleeping, and they're going to continue to sleep, but I'm telling you, this team has a lot of fight in them. I mean, that was the number 17 team in the country, the defending ACC champs. And not only were you in it, like you said, you should have won it. You had the lead in the fourth quarter by 7.
You were the better team on that field. Yeah. So you were the better team. And then also
had the ball
until 3 minutes left.
3 minutes left. And if you catch a pass, you're going to have first down on their side of the field down to 2 minutes left, and you're probably going to be able to wind the clock down and try a game-winning field goal with the very worst go to overtime even then. And also, you're talking about they were the number one rushing defense in the ACC. West Virginia is a team that has struggled to run the ball and nearly had 200 yards. If you take away the sacks, West Virginia did run for over 200 yards on the number one rush defense in the ACC. So you can't look at the performance. I know the loss sucked. I know there's some decisions you can question, like the fourth down we talked about and some other things, of course, and you hate the mental mistakes. But you can't look at this West Virginia team and tell me it's not the best West Virginia team you've seen in the past 4 seasons.
More than that, and I'm in my honest opinion, with all due respect to Will Grier, I'd like to watch him play. I think he was a great quarterback and a great all-time quarterback in our school's history. I think that JT Daniels is better in my truly honest opinion. I think that Will Grier's his best attribute was his long ball throw. He had a very good long ball. I think JT's got great pocket awareness. He has a great short to medium throw. I've never been more of a fan of the bubble screen than I was Thursday night. I've never ever been a fan of the bubble screen that I can remember, until watching that game Thursday night. There's so many things that JT Daniels can do that I seen just in one game Thursday that was so refreshing. I guess just because we've seen what we've seen in the last few seasons, but man, sky's the limit for this football team, gentlemen. I truly believe that.
And I want to say that pass to Reese Smith at the very end of the game, that was an elite level pass. That man put that ball in only one place that his receiver could catch it and no other person could put a hand on it. He says he could have brought it up a little bit. I don't know. That ball was placed perfectly, and he had faith in his receiver to go out there and catch it. And it still blows my mind I'm getting chills thinking about that pass because it was just that good.
Yeah,
and,
I thought
Will Grier was like a good football player, but I think that he had a great mentality, right? So like Will Grier had good talent, great mentality, and that made him a great player. And JT Daniels, I think, has that same great mentality, and he is going to have such more elite talent. And so therefore, like you said, there is no ceiling for this offense right now.
I was going to say, I've seen a bunch of people on social media saying that if the ball was brought up just a little bit, then Reese would have caught it. But I absolutely 1,000% agree with you. I think he placed that ball in the only spot that he could have placed it without a pit defender being able to get a hand on it and swat it away. I think it was perfect placement. I think Reese just needs to get just a little bit more of a hand under the ball.
Yeah, it was there. I mean, he could have, potentially done it. But, JT said he wished he could have got it up a little bit more. So maybe, if he'd have put it up another inch, it's a for sure catch. Don't even have to go to the review booth. But like you guys said, I don't think that there's another quarterback that could have placed it any closer than what he did, probably, that I know of. And yeah, I would agree 100%. I think JT Daniels is better than Will Grier. Just being there from the very first time he took a snap, but the very first time he dropped back and the pocket broke down a little bit and he knew exactly where to step up to. Because I thought, we're just so used to what we've seen the past 3 years. I'm like, oh, sack. And then he just steps up into the perfect area or he rolls out of the – I'm just like, he just has it too. It's just like a sixth sense. He doesn't even look. He just feels it and knows. It's pretty impressive. And when you watch that, it definitely makes you very thankful to have him after, West Virginia has struggled to find a quarterback in recent years. So, like you said, the sky's the limit for this team, and definitely I think his offense.
Although
with a
Jared
like
Deggy is the active leader in the FBS in passing yards, gentlemen. Did you guys catch that little?
He's been playing since when?
Little spot on game day the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't catch it.
Yeah, they did a whole segment on my guy.
Yeah, so I hit a little bit of positive, negative. Our defensive backs have got to get some more work in, especially with losing Charles Woods. That's gonna be tough in the Big 12.
Yeah, hopefully he's healthy. I'm hoping to hear good news. I'm thinking probably press conference we'll hear something. How long term his injury is, but hopefully it's not extensive.
I heard he was in an air cast on Thursday night. He was at least in a boot.
I didn't hear that. I heard that his ankle was heavily taped in the second half, and he was in uniform trying to make a go, which tells me that he's cleared if he were to decide to go. He might have had a precautionary medical cast on after the game, but as far as the second half, I know that he was at least in uniform, and trying to.
Yeah, I think it'd be exciting to see Jacoby Spells. You got a chance to kind of like leak one of those new guys in there. Yeah, you got a chance to kind of like leak one of those new guys in there. I say put him in there, see what he does.
Yeah, well, you're going to be
either that or use
against
these
Kansas.
next 2 weeks to try to get back and healthier. Because you have 2
Mm-hmm.
games. That's what I guess is at least a positive is you have 2,
teams
pretty
you should beat.
Right, teams you should have wins against in the next few weeks to kind of get yourself squared away and back even minded to go into.
It's just scary because Kansas put up 56 points, which is scary no matter who you're playing.
I've seen that before from Kansas in a first game or two, against some of these lower level squads, and then they come out and they don't have nothing. But you're right. You don't ever know, especially under a new coaching staff like Kansas has.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's going to be an improved Kansas team. I mean, I did like what I saw. I think that their quarterback's good. I think they've got some good running backs, and they're going to try and run the ball on us. So we can't come in hungover from this game, and got to have the same mentality we did against Pitt when it comes to stopping the run. And yeah, I'm a little worried about the secondary with Woods out because I'm sure seems like he'll probably at least be out for this game. And Wesley McCormick, I guess, is going to be out for the first half because of that targeting. So you're looking at Rashad Ajayi and Wilson Lamp and nothing behind them but true freshman probably and a junior college guy and Jalen Shelton. So we'll see how that goes in the secondary. But we'll get over to the other side of this coin, and we'll talk about some negatives in a second. But there's definitely one more positive I had to bring up because I can't believe we're over half an hour through this episode now and we haven't talked about C.J. Donaldson, guys. How have we not brought him up yet? I don't know. But
because Bradley keeps wanting to talk about the 4th and 1 call. That's why.
Well, I brought it up because we had C.J. Donaldson. I said, the guy was running. I brought him up a little bit.
Great point. Good point.
The guy was averaging 12.2 yards after contact.
No, that's true. That's true. We did mention him in passing, but I mean, I know we all heard, when he moved from tight end to running back, I think everybody's ears perked up. And then when we heard Neil Brown again say he's probably going to play this season, we all kind of thought, okay, we'll see him some, but probably not the first game of the season, and then get closer to Pitt. And no, he's going to play because he wasn't on the depth chart. So there was a question. He said, no, he'll play. Yeah, he plays. And
he played
right away. I mean, 1 carry, 44 yards, set up West Virginia's first touchdown. I mean, the first 3 times this guy's ever touched the football, not only at West Virginia, not only in college, but the first 3 times he touched the football in the backyard brawl, a 44-yard run, a blocked punt, and then a 5-yard touchdown run. So, I mean, you can't really have a better debut than that. And I don't know about you guys, but just the way that, he was down on the depth chart and came in and exploded like that, you got it. Steve Slayton comes to mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think stars are born in games like that, and I think that game and that atmosphere truly makes people better athletes and better players moving forward. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. He's already a great player, but yeah, man, I'm excited to see what the future holds for that young man. But I truly, truly hate to think that so negatively, and I think you guys know what I mean, in seeing such a young player play so greatly, so fast.
But I mean, a good
Miami
confidence
comes to
builder.
mind.
A good confidence builder towards that, though, is the young guy said, I think he wasn't getting a lot of looks out of, high school immediately. So there's a little bit of, these people took a shot on me. So a little bit of loyalty. But the first thing he said at his conference is that he wanted to thank Tony Mathis and Justin Johnson for taking him under their wing and really helping him out and figure things out. So, it doesn't even seem like, he seems very humble, and that's what you love to see in a kid. And so I think that's somebody you can really build on. But I would like to see him line up at tight end. I want to see the kid catch the ball.
Put him all over, yeah.
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see him line up at several positions: tight end, slot. Put some packages in there. We're putting him at fullback. I mean, come on.
Hell, he'd be a great defensive end.
Yeah. I think
play him everywhere.
The guy anywhere. He's just a football player.
Absolutely.
Put him with the spear.
Well, that's what I'm interested in to see, though, right? Is because he wasn't on the depth chart. I don't know how closely Pitt follows stuff. I mean, they probably knew that he was playing running back and knew they may see him. But the thing is, he's not surprising anyone now. There's film on him. They know what he's good at. And I want to see what he can do with Kansas having a week to game plan for him and see if he comes out and has, another great performance. I know it's Kansas, but they're going to be focused on trying to stop him. So if he comes out and has another great performance, yeah, we're talking something special. Not that we aren't already, but I just want to see it confirmed when, people are preparing for him specifically and stuff. And that's when you really know, I guess, because he is a true freshman. So who knows? He may, hit that freshman wall at some point. But right now, he's riding pretty high, and the ceiling is through the roof, right? So,
make no mistake about it.
That's what you want.
That's the good thing about him playing as a true freshman. So
make no mistake about it. A lot of his yards were off of our offensive line were blowing up holes. Blowing up.
Run blocking was incredible.
They were. And it was more of just C.J. Donaldson was hitting them full head of steam and daring somebody to try to tackle him. Which is what they've talked about. This is pretty much what they've said. Nobody wants to tackle him, and if our offensive line can give him a hole where he can just bury his head down and just get a full head of steam ahead of him, why can't he do it ever again?
Yeah, but if you're West Virginia, that's what you want. You know what I mean? You want you don't want Tony Mathis, being the guy every game to be getting filmed on. If you want a true stable of backs, then you want them to be able to go after other guys on the film and be able to scheme against those guys. So you have more options of what you can do again, with other guys, I guess. And I think that's the true reason, which is a great point. I think that C.J. Donaldson had the game that he had. Everybody knew that he might play, but then he comes out and plays like that. So now Kansas may scheme for C.J. Donaldson more. Tony Mathis may come out and have a better game. I don't know, but it's really a truly positive thing if you think about it.
Tony Mathis still looked good. He had almost 100 yards on 14 carries.
Not play bad.
Yeah, he looked just fine.
Yeah, and then run game good, run blocking good, pass blocking still left a little bit to be desired. So let's flip it over. We'll talk the other side of the coin. Some cons, from the game that you're.
I've got one more positive
concerned about
brought up. I got one more positive.
Okay, go ahead.
JT Daniels to Bryce Ford Wheaton is the new Clint Trickett to Kevin White.
Yeah.
It's that combo, that duo right now is just, I don't know who's going to be able to stop that. No chance.
I just need some of our other receivers to step up too, though. They've targeted him, I think it was 15 or 16 times. And like I said, it's a good connection, but also is the trust there with the other receivers? I don't know.
And I think, when I was going to this game, because you guys know I've been pitching Caden Prather for years now. And, I'd actually, in an effort to get my girlfriend more involved in Mountaineer football, I gave her a favorite player 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and that was Caden Prather. And I told her, I said, keep an eye on him. I was like, he's going to get there. And so we were on the way up to the game, we were talking about it. And I was like, listen, I was like, Caden Prather's probably not going to show up in this game. I was like, just my feeling about it. I was like, I feel like in the backyard brawl, we're definitely going to lean on Bryce Ford Wheaton and Sam James, just because those are the two veteran guys in the group. Those are the two most sure catchers. And so I think that's just who I felt like JT was going to throw it to the most in that game. It's pretty much what happened. And so I expect Caden Prather to really make his step up this week against Kansas. I'm sure we'll talk about that more in our preview, but I definitely expect our receivers to really start. I expect the ball to be spread out a lot more coming up with this next week. But I think just the backyard brawl, having a lot on the line, it didn't surprise me that he hyper-focused Bryce Ford Wheaton and St. James.
I think that your guy is going to be really involved more this year in Reese Smith by your guy.
Yeah, I got a couple.
Yeah, you got a few that you're really, really high on. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think Reese Smith, I think that he's going to do some things this year that's really going to surprise some people in our fan base. And I'm excited for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, he gives me a lot of I brought his name
Wes Welker vibes.
Yeah, I brought him up a few years ago.
Hunter Renfro.
Or Hunter Renfro. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's who I think of too when I think of him. But your positive, Bradley, kind of spins into one of my negatives. So I'll kick it off because there was a couple units I was disappointed in. One we kind of touched on briefly, and that's the secondary. But the unit that I was really disappointed in outside of Bryce Ford Wheaton was the wide receivers. I thought that we'd see a lot of them have good games and step up, and drops were an issue again. We talked about, of course, the most hurtful drop was the one that ended up, leading to the deciding score. But there was plenty of others throughout the game. And then, of course, the costly fumble. As soon as you get a fumble from Pitt, they're screen and give one right back. And, so the receivers, more or less kind of let me down, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. Not that it was all negative. There were some bright spots, BFW and some good catches still in there. Prather and Sam James did make a couple plays each and stuff. But all in all, I thought we would have a stronger receiving core than what we have. Because right now it looks like we've got one dude and then just another cast of guys. But hopefully that changes. But, got to get into some cons, and that was one for me.
Yeah. I think I can agree with that. I think there was a lot of. I went back and I finally had a chance to be able to watch the game again today, replay of it, and there was absolutely. There were several throws, if not most all throws that were missed catches were right on the money. I mean, they should have been catches. I mean, they were over the shoulder catches that were right through the breadbasket, right where a quarterback needs to place a football for the receiver to be able to catch it, and they just simply didn't. But there's also, like you said, there's bright spots as well. There was also a very, very fine catch by Bryce Ford Wheaton in the middle of 4 pit defenders, and he went up and just grabbed that thing out of the air in the middle of all of them. And so I think that there's definitely areas that we've improved on, but I think that there's also areas that they still need to improve on. And a lot of it could have been the emotion of the football game and being the first game, being that much emotion into a football game could have played a lot into it. And I'm sure played at least some factor into it, which I'm on the end of believing that, the Bryce Ford Wheaton miscatch was part of the emotion of the football game. He's just excited to get up the field and didn't watch it all the way in. Mistakes happen. Kid had a great game. I think that mistake is more critical than the decision to not go for it on 4th and 1 in my mind. I'm not going to harp on the kid. I don't think that anybody should bash the kid or shame him in any way. But I mistakes happen in football, and I think that that's what that was. I think that it was a bad mistake in a football game, and it was a critical error that cost us, what ended up being a 14-point swing. But anyway, the receivers definitely need to improve on looking the ball in on a more consistent basis. With that said, I think that Pitt secondary definitely impressed me because West Virginia's route running was very, very fundamental in the first part of the game, and then in the end of the game, you notice West Virginia have to improvise with some of the route running. So I thought that, if anything, Pitt secondary just did a good job of making West Virginia's receivers work all night. But with that said, I think that there's plenty of room for improvement.
Yeah, and I definitely think that, if it's kind of got to be a short leash, I think, in my opinion, if these guys aren't going to start catching balls and stepping up. You've got Cortez Braham, Jeremiah Aaron, and Preston Fox, who we had heard, another guy we had heard about all during spring ball. And, of course, none of us really expected him to get that much playing time. But it's a guy they talked a lot about. And if our wide receivers aren't going to be catching balls, then, put out a guy out there that they've said has done nothing but catch balls.
Mr. Fox.
Yeah. So, it is just how it is. And I was going to say, I think Reese Smith, he reminds me a lot of Jordan Thompson. I don't know if you guys remember him. He was here for 4 years. Yeah. He just always seemed to be that third down receiver.
Oh, yeah.
Just consistent hands. If you threw it to him, he caught it. Usually no more than 12 yards. And so, just him, Jordan Thompson. That's who I always just relate him to it. And I love Jordan Thompson as a player.
I can see it.
But yeah, so as wide receivers, like I said, I expect him to take a huge step up this weekend. I think that it was, JT Daniels really just wanting to win this game and trusting on the one guy he knew could get it done and was showing that he could get it done. And so, I think that this weekend we're going to see a little bit different and a lot more production from our other wide receivers. So I know they weren't that great, but I'm not too concerned about it.
Right, and it goes back to what Steven said about the running backs also, right? Like, people are going to focus on BFW now, so Sam James might be open in the middle more. Reese Smith getting right through on the other side. So, yeah, it's definitely going to change going forward. But I definitely think, BFW is set for a good season. And if he plays like that all season, he'll be a 1,000-yard guy for the Mountaineers this season. So it's not all bad with the receivers, but, can definitely improve for sure. Another con for me, I know we talked about the secondary, we talked about mental mistakes, but tackling, my goodness. How bad was and that's the thing is West Virginia's been a good tackling team for the most part. I thought the past couple of seasons really, but I think that's what hurt the defense more than anything is, they've got good pressure and stuff. But when Pitt would complete a pass, they'd complete a 5-yard pass, and then it ended up a 20-yard gain. I mean, the touchdown that tied the game up at 31-31 was just a 3-yard dump-off pass, check down for Keaton Slovis, and the running back breaks 3 tackles, hits the sideline, and scores a 20-some-yard touchdown. And it was just like that all night. Not even just arm tackles, but taking bad angles at guys when they're running down the field. I'm like, what are we doing? So I don't know. To me, that was probably my biggest con of the game was tackling. That really just, I hated to see that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where it's just, I think that's how college football is nowadays, where you're just not seeing as much tackling and stuff during summer or fall and stuff like that. So again, I'm gonna chalk that one up to it was bad. It was ugly. I think that the bad angles worried me more than the bad tackling. Just so not pursuing that. But yeah, I think that just not being able to tackle was just a first game thing, and I expect that to improve again week after week. I think that just guys we don't tackle as much anymore, and that's understandable with people getting so hurt and stuff. So I think that it's more of an issue of taking horrible lines rather than in tandem to just bad tackling.
Yeah, I think it's a multitude of a couple different things. I think it's that, but I think it's also, like you said, guys don't get the practice that they used to in the off season anymore. You get a few weeks, and most of those days are filled in with non-contact. And a lot of guys don't really have the opportunity to get in full, real good tackling reps, because even when you're going, live in those scrimmages, you're not going full out because you don't want to hurt your teammates. So I think that might have something to do with it, but I think that also, there was a lot of youth being played in the football game the other night, and not just youth, but a lot of new faces and a lot of players that, they may have played in big football games, but very few players have played in an atmosphere. I know for a fact very few players have played in an atmosphere like that, because there's only been a few times in my life where I've been in football games with that.
Never happened in Pittsburgh.
I'll tell you that. So,
never happened in Pittsburgh.
So I'll tell you. I mean, those things affect you as a player. I mean, it's easy for us to sit here as fans and critique every single little thing that a player does or a coach does or this, that, and a third. But hindsight's 20/20, and we know that, we get that. But those in high emotion moments, there's always going to be things that we go back. And I think that's part of the fun of the game, though. I think that, if anything, that shows the passion that's still dealt into this game and into this team, I guess you could say. Whereas a lot of, we were sitting here a few weeks ago and we're saying, does college football still have the passion that it used to? I think that bodes well in the statement of saying that it does, and that it's a positive thing moving forward into the future for the sport. And hopefully that some of these TV deals that are, coming into play now that everybody's talking, they see that and they see this kind of market. It only helps. So
definitely.
Yeah, and I'll say, I had a blast at that game. I thought it was so much fun.
Oh, fantastic.
And I didn't talk crap the whole time. I just made it a concerted effort to acknowledge every Mountaineer I saw, just like walking down the street, saw somebody in the WV, I'd shout out, let's go Mountaineers. It's not, yell and eat shit Pitt every chance I get. It's not, down talking Pitt fans every second I got. But it was encouraging the Mountaineers that we had there. And, I thought that we gave them hell all night as fans. We were definitely noticeable. That whole 75-25 bull crap that was popping up and people not understanding even what that was and just getting caught up in the numbers. We showed up, and that's all that really mattered. We were loud. We were part of that game, and we didn't let up on Pitt all night as fans, and our football team didn't either. And that was a lot of fun to me. I thought it was a blast.
Well, I'll say this: I had a great day. I had a great time. That'll probably be the last time that I ever attend a backyard brawl in that city. The way that, and Cruz will attest to this, the way that we were treated, other than, and this doesn't count the tailgate in PNC Park, because I think it was Silas that invited us to. Was that Silas that invited us?
I believe it was Silas that first posted it in the chat, and one of the streams.
So. Well, shout out to you, Silas, because that was awesome. That was a very, very truly phenomenal event that they had over there with the band and the cheerleaders, and just renting out the entire PNC Park, and it was really, really, really cool to see that. With that being said, I've seen no hospitality from any Pitt fan that I seen that night. It was nothing but slanderous talk. No one, and I mean no one, was even the slightest of being nice. So that just confirmed, my thoughts about that. I can respect a player that plays at Pitt. I will always stand firm in my feelings towards anybody who roots for that team, and they look down upon us, and I think you guys can understand more so than what you did in the past because it was your first backyard brawl live, seeing it in person.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully you can understand what my thoughts are more than what you did a few nights ago. But yeah, I'm not a fan of anybody that can root for that school and be. I'm sorry, but no hospitality shown. I'm probably just ranting on now, and I'm sorry for.
No, you're good. No, listen. We don't like them. They don't like us. Just like the Pac-Man said in that video, before the game. I thought that was great put. We don't like them. They don't like us.
Yeah, I did think it was funny though. On my way out, we were walking down the stands, and a Pitt fan was trying to get a "Let's Go Pitt" cheer going, and literally a Pitt fan responded. They're like, "We're too wore out for that." And I was like, "If the Mountaineers
that describes the fan base perfectly."
I was like, "If the Mountaineers just won the backyard brawl in Morgantown, you would not be able to get anybody to shut up."
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Even being there, like during the game, like we scored to go up 31-24 in the fourth quarter, and then stopped them and got the ball back with like 6 minutes left. And I remember it was like a TV timeout, and they played some music, whatever, and it was showing their fans on the Jumbotron, and they're literally all dancing around, happy as can be. Like, and literally, if that was Mountaineer Field and the WVU had just gave the ball back to them, by 7 with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, there wouldn't be a song playing. There wouldn't. You would hear a pin drop in the stage. It's just they don't. It's like they don't care the way that we care.
Yeah, their passion isn't our passion because they have Pitt, but if Pitt doesn't do good, then there's always the Steelers, or there's always the Pirates, or there's West Virginia. We all we got.
That's it. Our state versus their neighborhood, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said.
Our passion outpassions their passion every day. I promise you that.
Absolutely, and I can't wait till next year when we get that dub in Morgantown.
Yeah. I hope they
I would also like to.
too.
Another thing I thought I'd bring up too is some places we got right. Here's a squad is talking about sack leaders. I picked Jared Bartlett, and I think Steven picked Dante Stills, and they're both tied right now. Both of them looked really great. Dante Stills and absolutely. You guys should go check out if you guys haven't already. I know we're at the end of this video, but you guys should go check out Jordan's videos that he just put out on the best offensive players and the best defensive players. That was some good shit, Jordan. I really liked hearing that. Dante grading out at an 87.1 just blew my mind.
Insane. Well, the thing, I'm gonna try and do that for every game as much as I can. Do at least just do the top 5 offensive graded players, top 5 defensive graded. Pretty cool, just a little something from PFF. But one thing digging in, I know we'll get into our players of the game soon and get out of here before too much longer. But was it before we, I've harped on about everything I want to harp on, but there's one more thing because it really stuck out. And when you brought up the numbers, it made me think of it. It almost slipped my mind. We talked about pass blocking struggling, and it did. And looking at the grades for West Virginia's pass blocking, the only one that really had a great grade was Doug Nestor. I believe he was 80 plus. And then it was like Mike O'Laughlin and actually C.J. Donaldson were like second and third. But as far as linemen go, then Zach Frazier was decent. Jordan White was decent. But Jaquay Hubbard struggled, of course. I think that's, we all kind of knew that was the right tackle was going to be the weakness. And once Jordan White went down with an injury, which hopefully he's okay as well, and Doug Nestor slid over, the pass protection struggled a little bit. But most surprising to me, do you know who struggled the most in pass blocking?
Sounds like Brian Milan.
James Gamitter.
Oh,
James Gamitter.
Do you know for comparison, I think Nestor's pass blocking grade was somewhere in the 80s. Jordan White, Zach Frazier, somewhere in the 60s. Wyatt Milan right there too. James Gamitter, I mean, Jaquay Hubbard was in the 50 or 40 range, still not very good, but James Gamitter, I hate to harp on people, but his pass blocking grade was a 19.6, boys. And I don't know if that's just because the opponent, because we know Pitt had a very strong pass rush and maybe, Kalijah Cansey was his matchup or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to dig into that further. But that really, I was like, what? I couldn't believe it was like that. But I'm sure he'll bounce back. I think Gamitter's good. But that Pitt pass rush is real. And their defensive line is, 10, 12, 13 deep. So West Virginia just faced, arguably the best defensive line they faced. So I know the pass blocking looked bad, but I think a lot of that's a product of it being Pitt, especially with how much improved run blocking looked. But
yeah, but you know what? West Virginia still got to play Baylor, who has a great defensive line. They've got to play Oklahoma State, who has a great defensive line. They've got to play Oklahoma, who's going to have a pretty good defensive line. So if anything, I think that playing that in your first game against what might be the best defensive line in the country, hey, that's it gets you ready, it gets you going for the rest of the season. And that, I want to say that, there's so many people, and I grew up watching West Virginia football, and the only thing that you ever heard when West Virginia was winning with Pat White back in the day was, well, they don't ever play nobody. They don't, their schedule is weak. They don't ever play nobody. They joined the Big 12 conference, and now they schedule people that are, noteworthy, and now everybody's like, well, our schedule's too tough. Well, what are we supposed to do? What?
Can't win.
So I mean, you can't. I don't know. That's one thing that I have been pretty annoyed with in just terms of just generality.
I get that. I get that. You can't win for losing in that aspect, it seems. But we've talked positives, we've talked negatives. One more thing to do here for the review and reaction at the end, and that is our players of the game. Stephen, we'll let you kick it off earlier. Bradley, we'll let you kick it off to close. Player of the game on offense, player of the game on defense in Game 1 of the 2022 WVU football season.
Wait. It's me going first.
My bad.
No, you said you got to go first. No, I get to go first.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, my bad. I probably presented that pretty confusing.
Get with the program.
It's Jordan's fault, man. My bad.
Yeah, so I'm going to steal him first then. C.J. Donaldson, player of the game on offense. Guy debuts absolutely elite. Don't know how you're going to anybody else but him. And you can go Bryce Ford Wheaton. I get the argument for that. I hope when you guys pick him up. But and I'm going to take the easy one on defense too. Dante Stills grading out at 87.1. Fairmont native. He showed up for the game, and that guy's playing his way into the NFL, and hopefully a nice draft pick.
Steven?
All right. Well, I was gonna go CJ, but for the sake of being different, very different on offense, I'm gonna say JT. I think that with the team in need of a true leader at that position, I think he showed up and showed out. I think that he was way better than advertised, and I think that he's going to be very, 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 very talented at the position, obviously, but I think that he's obviously going to be a great leader for this team. Defensively, I'm going to go a little bit different as well. I think that Dante obviously played a great game, but I'm going to go with my man Lee Koba.
Okay.
He got his – he was in there pretty much – if he didn't make a tackle, he was almost there to make the tackle. I think he ended up with 10 total tackles, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
somewhere around that number.
He's the leader.
So, yeah, I love the way that Dante played, but for the sake of being different, I'm going to go with Lee.
Well said. Great choices all around. You guys took, kind of the top ones, really. But like I said, we like to keep it different. So, Bryce Ford Wheaton, and JT Daniels were kind of my top two picks. CJ Donaldson and JT Daniels. But Bradley already mentioned BFW. But to be different, I'm going to go Doug Nestor. I thought, he played great on that offensive line, especially when you're looking at the grades and stuff. Really stuck out, and you can tell a big difference from, last season when he had to start with that cast on his hand. Now he's, had a complete offseason, completely healthy, and looks really great. So I'll go Doug Nestor on offense to be different. And then on defense, Jared Bartlett. We mentioned him a little bit earlier. 1.5 sacks in the game. Thought he looked like a completely different player, a lot bigger, a lot stronger, just still kept the speed. And I think he could be a force at Bandit this season, especially with the attention that West Virginia's defensive line draws. It's going to be hard. It's going to be pick your poison there. If you focus on one, somebody else is going to open up. So like Bartlett on defense, like, what the defensive line did pass rushing in general. So that's the players of the game. Appreciate everyone that tuned in chat. We like to do our review and reaction recordings live. This one's on our channel here if you're watching on the YouTube side. Next week, though, they're going to be not only on our channel, but they're going to be immediately following the games, and it's going to be on the Voice of College Football channel as well. So if you haven't, go to the West Virginia Mountaineers at the Voice of College Football channel. Subscribe that up. Bradley's going to be hosting there this week following the Kansas game. Me and Steven are going to try and join from our phones following the game, but definitely it will be there. So that'll be coming up. That'll be Season 5, Episode 133. Before that, we'll have Episode 132, our Kansas preview, released sometime this week. But hopefully also this week we will try and do a Q&A live stream where we can interact more with you guys in the chat that tuned into this live. Appreciate you guys tuning into this live recording of Season 5, Episode 131. Like I said, subscribe to the West Virginia Mountaineers Voice of College Football channel. Also subscribe to the West Virginia Sports Now channel if you haven't subscribed already. We are now a part of their podcast network over there at wvsportsnow.com and a part of the Sports Now network as their official fan show for West Virginia. So definitely subscribe there. The full episode of this podcast in its entirety will be on their YouTube, as well as all of our other podcasts that go along with ours. And that being said, if you're watching on YouTube on the video side, hit the like button if you haven't already. It'll help this video's performance and help our future videos' performance. And subscribe no matter which channel you're tuning in on. That'll help us and help you and help get more of this Mountaineer football content out to Mountaineer Nation. That being said, gentlemen, Season 5, Episode 131. Pretty much in the books. West Virginia falls in the season opener, but we've got a lot of good hope for the rest of the season, it seems like. That being said, any final thoughts, gentlemen, before we get ready to wrap up this edition of the Country Roads Webcast?
I am very optimistic, like I said, about this football team, and truly excited for the rest of this season. Other than that, Huggy Bear getting inducted to the College Hoops Hall of Fame, or the Basketball Hall of Fame, in just a few days, and also Deshaun Butler accepted a job with the New York Knicks as an assistant coach. So congrats to my guy on that.
Wow, nice. That's awesome.
Maybe he can get Deuce off the G League team.
He deserves to be off the G League team. That's a atrocity right there. I don't know how in the world that my man, he scores 30 a night. How are you still in the G League?
Thibodeau don't play
like Isaiah Thomas.
Thibodeau won't play rookies for nothing. So hopefully now maybe he's not a rookie. He'll get more playing time, hopefully.
Man.
Yeah, I hope so.
Sad for my guy.
Yeah.
Happy for one of my guys, sad for my other guy.
Yeah.
Happy Deshaun, that's great. And Huggy. Don't forget Huggy getting inducted.
Oh yeah, congrats, Huggy Bear.
Yeah, congrats.
I know you hate him, Brad, but he made it despite what you think of.
Oh, here we go. Hey, before basketball season comes around, y'all gonna have that plenty of time for that debate. Bradley, final thoughts?
Yeah, if you guys haven't watched it, go look at Neil Brown's Twitter post that he had put out, a little 2-minute snippet talking about how, I think he was really taking this loss seriously and saying, don't get discouraged. We still got to show up. This team's not done fighting, and so neither should our fans be done fighting. And, guys, we got a lot. This Mountaineer team looks way better than what it did, and I think that we've got a really exciting season ahead of us. So let's make sure we show up, show out.
Yeah,
absolutely. Great point. And I'm glad you brought that up. Almost forgot to mention that. Glad you didn't and brought it in here at the end because I thought that was awesome. Tells you everything you need to know about Neil Brown, his personality, and how much the game meant to him. And he wants Mountaineer Nation to know that as well. And more importantly, knows how much it means to the state. So it was almost like, hey, I'm sorry, didn't get it done, but hey, stick with us because the wins are coming, and hopefully we'll be here to chronicle them along the way. And the next thing we'll be chronicling is our Kansas preview. That will be Season 5, Episode 132, our Kansas preview and predictions, coming at you midweek, and also hopefully a live stream sometime this week where we can get a little Q&A in with you guys here in the Country Roads Webcast community. That being said, appreciate everyone that tuned in, whether you're tuned in on the video side or the audio side. On the audio side, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, do us a favor to leave us a review. That helps us there. And like I said, on the video side, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. And we'll be back here to do it again in the future. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. That being said, for Bradley and Steven, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go. Mountaineers.
If you really want to know, then come on, let's go. Take a stroll down those